When I was browsing the Steam store trying to find games that interested me, I stumbled upon Skelethrone: The Prey. Now, I'm not really into Metroidvanias, and I think a reason that I'm not very big into them is that I just really don't like backtracking. I consider it to be quite a chore, and these games, that's their basic foundation. But my first impressions of the art style made me ignore those previous feelings on Metroidvanias, and I'm glad it did, because I had an incredibly enjoyable time 100%ing this short but sweet demo. I wanted to first off cover the art here simply because it's what drew me into the game initially, and it made me look past those initial feelings of Metroidvanias. I love dark fantasy. It's my favorite genre of any genre of all time. The darker the better, baby. I love it. Some of my favorites would include the Warhammer Fantasy series. We're talking about the original, not whatever the fuck is going on with the new stuff. And obviously the Kings of the Souls-like franchise from its namesake, Dark Souls. And when I look at this game, I see a grimy, dark fantasy game that I'd love to explore. I do think that the trailer for the full game really emphasizes the kind of dark that I'm interested in, but we still get some weird, twisted things, such as the woman that's piloting this biomechanical thing, and as she's taking more damage, she loses some limbs and stuff. Pretty gross, pretty cool. The art style is clear as well. It's grimy, but it's clear. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you look at it, for a solo dev with no prior experience, I think I just find the sprites very easy to read and never was, guessing what something was. And something that really impressed me was just looking at the backgrounds of some of these places. It's like one of those beautiful matte paintings that I'd expect to be on one of those B movies that are kind of out of place because of the level of dedication and detail that goes into those matte paintings compared to the genre it's associated with. Overall, again, I'm just impressed by the visuals. I really enjoy the art style and the aesthetic of the game. I think if you're a fan of dark fantasy games, you're also going to enjoy this aesthetic. Honestly, the idea of some sort of review seems a bit silly. It's a free 1 hour game. If you have even the slightest interest, you should just go ahead and download it. But I guess with that in mind, I kind of just said fuck it, and I did it along with getting all the achievements for the game. Now, getting all the achievements for a game, that's not really something I usually do. I can only think of 2 games recently I've done that for, and that's Elden Ring and Dusk. I love those games, and I felt like I wanted to get all the achievements for them. I think that I would have still wishlisted this game, even if I wasn't going to make this video or get all the achievements, just doing a normal first playthrough. But I'm going to be honest, the vast majority of the games I wishlist, they sit ignored. My wishlist, it has thousands of games in it right now, and I'll occasionally look there and sort it by, most discounted, so I can buy anything that's price has dropped dramatically since last time. But taking the time to have to really think on how I felt about the game, and also spending more time with it, it left me walking away with this game on my mind, instead of simply just something that I experienced in passing. My first playthrough, it was just a normal playthrough. I don't even think at that point I was planning on making a video for the game yet, but as I finished it up, this first playthrough, I feel like I had a good enough time to kind of justify going ahead and getting all of the achievements and making a video about the gameplay demo. At this point, I'd finished a full playthrough of the demo in like 1.4 hours, and I had 6 out of 14 of the achievements already, and started making plans to complete the last 8 of them. Now at this point, I needed to load that earlier save file so I could go ahead and get 2 of the ones I was looking at, but I actually ended up with 3. The first 2 I was mentioning is the 100 and My Precious. I figured it would be pretty straightforward to get both of those. The 100 is you simply need to kill 100 enemies, and My Precious is getting the 5 shards that are scattered throughout the level. We'll get to those in a bit. When it came to getting the 100 achievement, my first thought was maybe I could kill a bunch of these jellyfish that spawn in this room, but I figured since they're like an environmental hazard, they don't give XP and they spawn forever, they're probably not going to count. So instead, I just went ahead and went back to the first opening section, and I just grinded out all of those enemies that are neatly lined up in probably, I don't know, 15 minutes. Next was my precious, which is referring to these shards that are hidden throughout the level that we're going to collect and eventually get an additional vessel of life. Essentially, ye old Estus flask, my beloved. I had one that I had a tough time finding. I went a whole 30 minutes searching before having a brain blast and remembering YouTube exists. Funny aside, the video that I watched for this was actually published by Valkyrie Initiative, the publishers of this game. Did not realize that till editing. I guess while we're on this topic, we should go ahead and cover the exploration and level design. Now again, it's a demo, it's only an hour long, so it's hard to say that my experience during this is going to reflect the full game. But for now, I mean, the exploration is fine. It wasn't particularly challenging, and personally, the only exploration types I found were just hidden areas where you had to walk through it and it looked like a wall. No special abilities needed to interact with them, or interact with a wall in a particular way, you know, those pretty basic mechanics. But then again, this is the prequel demo. We don't have access to the suite of abilities that's supposed to be within the full game, so I mean, that might explain the reason why there's just not that much exploration to be done. But there is a bit to do even beyond the shards. Within my playthrough, I found a ring that gave some resistance to magic, and there's a helmet at the very beginning of the game that you can equip. Now, I actually skipped one I'd gotten between these two, which was Victim's Revenge. I was initially confused about this achievement. It read to me like it was referencing the main bosses kill the Hound's enemies, and I figured it would have them kill all of them without dying or using a bonfire. Thankfully, I reached out to the solo dev 70 Strike and got clarification that the Hounds referred to the human enemies with swords and guns near the funny-looking but likely effective barrel boats. I thought I still had to start a new save though, so while searching for the last shard and killing these guys, I ended up killing all of them without needing a bonfire or dying, so thankfully even further along than I thought, 9 out of 14. Right after I got that last shard though, I just go ahead and bust out a quick speed run. Actually, that's not true. So I attempted a speed run, I got so horribly lost I still hadn't seen the second boss 20 minutes in. I don't think that's supposed to happen. Interesting. Anyways, that's what happens when you play more than 10 minutes of a prologue. That was actually tactical, because yeah. Okay. God damn. All right. This is bad. Okay. So, dusting off my pride and trying again, I ended up getting it on that second try with roughly 5 minutes left. A bit close there, but we got it. 10 out of 14. So, after a break for a day, I came back with a plan to finish off these last 3 achievements, as the very last achievement, the Victor's Crown, is just for getting all of the others. So this one I did have quite a bit of difficulty with, and I grew some appreciation for the game's boss design, as one of these 3 bosses, which much more difficult than the others. It certainly wasn't the Guardian though, only 16 deaths here. This is a pretty standard large golem boss. Every soul-like has at least one of them. This one took, maybe 17 minutes or so to figure out the pattern that I needed to get it down. The general strategy I used was simply just to stand near his legs for the majority of the time, baiting out the kick attacks and then hitting him. I mean, at this point in the game, that's all you can do. All you simply have is your sword. You don't have any abilities. So feeling pretty confident, I storm off to the next boss, Maricus Machine. This was my big fuck up. So, I should have leveled up my strength for like a damage boost, or leveled it Period. I should have done anything else besides just go straight to the next boss and get killed. How many times does it say? Like 68 times. 68 times. We'll be playing that in the background here. But instead, yeah, that was what I did. I went straight to the next boss at base level, and I died roughly, I don't know, 68 plus times before I finally started. I just said fuck it, and I restarted and I leveled up. So yeah, don't do that. But after doing so, just 6 more runs finally got me the no hit for the machine. My strategy used was, it was mostly keeping to the left side of the machine. Its left bottom arm has this jab attack that it's so fast I couldn't dodge it. But if you keep yourself hovered underneath that arm, it just doesn't do the attack, so eliminating it entirely is immensely helpful. Outside of that, it was mostly just the muscle memory of learning that I need to dodge the rocks if they come anywhere near me. I think probably almost 3/4 of my deaths came from thinking I could squeeze myself either right in between some rocks. It never worked. Never worked. Every single time I should have just dodged. But whatever. One little cheeky glitch I found during this though, if you stop yourself right where you're barely outside of the hitbox of the spike wall, and you hover around this area, not walking too much, instead of slamming the ground and making its other attacks, it just walks in place. This is a little easier said than done though, because also there's these little purple vine things on the ground that spring up and trap you if you walk into them. And many times when I attempted this, I ended up springing that trap and then getting whacked by a rock and having to restart. One thing I'd like to point out here is that somehow the global achievements in Steam show more people killed the machine without taking damage than finished the last boss of the demo. I don't know if I'm just trash, but that just seems weird. So the last boss, it was just basically learning the attack pattern, and when that seemed like it was going to take a while, I just power leveled outside the boss fight because, you gotta use everything to your advantage, right? We're playing to win here. Also, we have the 2 sword abilities now, so we actually get to use our essence ability that's been ignored up until this boss fight. During this boss fight is when I feel like the game's action economy really started to open up. I realized while doing these attacks that I had iframes, so at the very beginning of these sections, I'm using my forward thrust attack to go through his hitbox and then dodge him as well and do damage. I'll end up doing my upward slash just as kind of a filler for when he spawns those demon heads that shoot fire down on you. And with those iframes, I can dodge the fireballs and do damage to him. And there we go, after finishing off Zacharias, I am now sitting at 100% of all achievements, 14 out of 14. Like I said at the beginning, Metroidvanias, they didn't really seem like the type of game I enjoyed all that much, and I've tried some of what people say the best, like the little bug guy game with the needle, I don't know, but playing through this game, it both has me very intrigued for the full release coming in Q2, and it has me reevaluating my feelings for Metroidvanias in general. The demo, it emphasizes that this game has a very good foundation, and as long as the full game has interesting boss fights, beautiful dark fantasy vistas to explore, and a story that helps me understand what's happening during the course of this demo, I think after playing the full game, I'm going to walk away a very happy gamer. If you haven't already, you should play this demo, and then absolutely wishlist the game on Steam. It helps out people, more than the average consumer might initially think. Even though I didn't know this going in playing the game, I was already impressed with it. I'm even more impressed and interested because this is made by a solo developer. This guy, he has poured his heart and soul into this game over the course of a few years, and I can tell this game has a very interesting art style. I like the theme, and as long as during the course of the gameplay we receive more, abilities, upgrades beyond just the 2 special abilities on my melee weapon, I predict I'm gonna 100% this game, and I will be very happy with my purchase.